Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I am your host, Brian Scott. This episode is dedicated for those that are still struggling, that are experiencing a sort of low point in their finances. They feel like they're losing more money than they're making, and they're beginning to panic. And I wanted to dedicate an episode to coming out of that survival mode that you're in right now. If you are experiencing an ebb with more money going out than is coming in, don't panic. Do not lose confidence in yourself or think that somehow you have failed. The challenge of the ebb state is to believe in your future prosperity. It's easy to get caught up in the current state of things, thinking that this is how it will be forever. Everything on earth is cyclical, and all phases are temporary. For every ebb, there is a flow that will follow. If you have a short or long-term drop in your income, remember that it will be temporary, and focus on what you're learning from this experience. It is a rare company that does not go through ups and downs in the flow of sales created by natural business cycles. Because of world events, business cycles seem more intense, moving up and down. As you reach higher and higher levels of mastery with manifesting, you will be able to draw to you what you need when you need it, and you will be less affected by these cycles. Use these low periods to get even clearer about money in your life. Continue to magnetize, attract prosperity, and ask yourself, what is the advantage in this situation? If you're struggling with this, try the everything is working to your advantage meditation. But if you're in a point where you're struggling and you don't know why, ask yourself that question. What is the advantage in this situation? There is always a higher reason for changes in the flow of prosperity. Since you may have more free time during this cycle, use it to start doing things you have been wanting to do. Acquire new knowledge, think, relax, explore new avenues, or take that long-awaited vacation. You might want to look at new directions your work might take you and explore new ideas that are emerging. There's always a way out of the ebb or the low point. There are ideas in your mind just waiting to be explored and tried out. Pay attention to the beckoning whispers of the things you love to do, as well as your dreams and visions. You need to create new thoughts in your mind, and so affirmations work during times like this. So let's begin with one, and then say this with me. The universe works in perfect ways. It always serves my higher good. Everything is working to my advantage. Say it again. The universe works in perfect ways. It always serves my higher good. Everything is working to my advantage. The more you can appreciate the gifts you are receiving while the tide is out, the more rapidly the tide will come back in. Focus on the abundance you have rather than all the bills. See what new soul qualities you are developing, such as patience, trust, and love. Remember, you create what you focus on, and down cycles are always followed by up cycles. Think of a time in the past when you went through a hard time with money. See the strength it developed in you and how your life changed afterward. Much of the prosperity that you've experienced may be the result of that low point. When you look at the past, you can see how much progress and forward movement you have made after every ebb. Sometimes you need to spend money before you earn it, as most businesses do. If you're spending money on things that will bring you future prosperity, see this as a demonstration of trust in your future earning ability. Do, however, be honest with yourself in your evaluation of what you need and how much future income you might expect. Evaluate your skills and your knowledge and the market and make your decisions accordingly. For instance, new businesses sometimes get fancy offices and lots of equipment and hire staffs, and then find out they don't have the business to support these expenses. I see this all the time. And while it is a trusting thing to do, be honest with yourself at the beginning. You can say this with me: my debts represent my and others' belief in my future earning ability. If you're considering going into debt, check in with your inner guidance, that inner voice first, and ask if it's appropriate. Oftentimes it is. Incurring debt to finance a major leap forward has within it the possibility of bringing you more money than you borrow. I would not have been able to make money in the past without having borrowed money. Incurring debt to meet monthly expenses might indicate a basic problem to your financial setup. You can borrow money for rent, but rent is still going to be due next month. It is usually better to think about ways other than borrowing to create money on an ongoing basis. I know for many of you it gets stressful when you do this. So listen to that inner voice, and your inner voice is always right. Sometimes we ignore it. Sometimes it seems necessary to borrow to make ends meet, to buy things you need, or to finance a new venture. If you've gone into debt, don't let the fact that you have debts keep you from feeling prosperous. This is something that Napoleon Hill emphasized in Think and Grow Rich, that if you're in a state of debt, the worry that this creates makes it very difficult for you to make money. If you have gone into debt, don't let the facts that you have debts keep you from feeling prosperous. If your debts seem unmanageable, if you feel you have borrowed beyond your ability to pay, go back to your original belief that you would be able to pay these debts off easily. You trusted yourself to have future income when you borrowed the money. Keep renewing that trust. Rather than worrying about your debts, pay gladly, even a little payment each month. Visualize the amounts becoming less, and the debts will eventually be paid off. I go back to one of my original affirmations I've used on many of my meditations with debt. You don't want to focus on the debt itself, because that will simply grow. Even if you want to reduce it, you want to focus on something else. So I am so happy and grateful for the complete payment of all financial obligations in God's own wonderful way. Say that. Visualize the amounts becoming less and less and the debts being paid off, and really tune into the feeling of satisfaction and freedom that you will have when that debt is gone. And worrying about debt is non-productive. It is creative. It is powerful. And you have to find a way to overcome this worry about debt. If you're in a situation where you feel like you have no control over it, then think about God to replace that debt. You may prefer not to be in debt, but you're not going to get out of debt unless you put your mind to creative ideas and work instead of worry. When you're in that state of worry, it's very hard to be creative and imaginative. It closes off your imagination, and it takes away some of the joy and fun. That feeling of desperation creates a level of importance, and then there's balancing forces that always come into play. It is one of the trickiest and hardest things to overcome. It is an important lesson for you to learn. If you cannot make a payment, don't just ignore it. As I've had friends that will stick their heads in the sand and act like this isn't a problem, but deep down they know it is. And you got to stay in touch with your creditors or do something about it. Tell them your intention to pay. Send as much money as you can, even if it is only a portion of the payment that is due. Creditors are delighted to hear from you and usually will accept whatever you can afford to pay if you make payments on a regular basis. I know of one family that fell behind in their monthly bills when the husband was laid off work. Creditors were calling them, and the wife was afraid to answer the phone or the doorbell because people kept showing up asking for their money. The situation looked very grim. One day someone told her that if you contact the creditors and explain your situation, they usually make allowances. She didn't think it would work. She didn't think it would apply to her, since most of their creditors were big institutions. However, she bravely picked up the phone and called each creditor to explain their misfortune and their intent to pay off the bills. To her amazement, every creditor was friendly and reasonable. She offered to pay each one $5 or $10 each month until she could resume larger payments, and they even agreed not to report the late payments on their credit. If you are in debt and you want to get out of debt, start by figuring out the total amount that you owe and be honest with it. A lot of times I meet people that are in deep debt and they've got to the point they're incapable of even evaluating their own situation because of the feelings it brings up. It's very much like the other episodes we've done. When you have a problem and you push it down instead of letting it go, it makes things much worse. So forgive yourself. If you had any bad feelings about this debt, just forgive yourself and realize you borrowed because you and those you borrowed from believed in your future earning capacity. Picture your debt being totally paid off. Imagine the account reading $0 due, paid in full. Imagine logging into the account and seeing a zero balance. Imagine receiving a letter in the mail saying that it's paid in full. See yourself making the last payment. Make the scene as real as possible. Experience the good feelings you will have, but make this feeling accurate. The more you think about what the feeling would be, the more you can attract that state to you. Don't worry about how long it might take to pay off debt. I have met people that have come to me and saying, I want to pay this debt off, but it's 10 years from now and I'll never be able to really feel that. It's going to be so long. And then they get really caught up in the amount of time that it takes. In every case, when you follow these techniques of the imagination, then you will find that it works. Don't worry about how long it might take. When you get ready to pay the next installment of your debt, first write out a pretend check for the full amount. Put this check where you will see it whenever you refer to the bill. As you pay the bill, send love and a mental thank you to the creditor for his or her trust in you. Don't create enemies from your debtors. They gave you the money in the first place. Many people determine their net worth by looking at their balance on their bank accounts. Even if you do not have a savings account and you have debts, you still have net worth. All your skills, knowledge, attitude, education, experience, and contacts, everything you have learned and every skill that you possess are sources of future income. The skills and experience of your past are your net worth, and you can turn them into money. You are worth so much more than you think. Say it with me. My value and worth are increased by everything I do. When you receive payment for work, you are exchanging your experience for money. Every day you're gaining experiences that can be turned into money. Your earning power is growing. Your knowledge, skills, and experiences are worth money when you use them in the right way. In the future, you'll have even more skills that can create more money for you. Just the fact that you listen to this podcast on a regular basis, you're acquiring new skills and ideas all the time. It is in your nature. Even if you are in debt, you may still have a large net worth. It hasn't just to do with dollars. If you're a student who went into debt to finance your schooling, you're creating a net worth of skills that will later be converted into massive amounts of money. And if you found yourself laughing at that idea, then that's an idea that you have in your mind, a mindset that you need to change. Keep growing, expanding, and following your path, and your worth will continue to grow. And as you grow, you'll be able to earn more in the future to pay off past debts. When you're living at a survival level, barely able to pay your bills, do not feel that you're a failure. This is simply the way you have chosen to learn many important lessons and experience the essence of who you are and understand your emotions. You did this on purpose. You may be growing rapidly from this experience, more than you ever would have grown if you had all the money that you needed. You may be learning that you deserve to have abundance by experiencing the lack of what you want. Perhaps you're discovering how little it takes to live on. Realize you are not as dependent on having things as you thought. Perhaps you're learning that you can be generous even when you have very little. Norman Vincent Peale talks about in his book, The Power of Positive Thinking, being in massive debt, not having enough money for their next mortgage payment, and he and his wife agreed they still had to give money. And when they did, they got the money they needed to pay their next mortgage payment. There is something about giving in times of extreme debt that seems to be creative in terms of helping you. It's an action of trust towards the universe. It's an action of faith. You might be learning the higher qualities of trust and compassion and humility. You may be looking at what is important in your life, sorting through what is meaningful and essential to you and what is not. And it helps you understand the struggles that other people go through. You might be learning how to let others give to you, or how to feel powerful without money. When you understand, embrace, and accept the lessons, you will no longer need this experience. So say this with me. All my experiences are opportunities to gain more power, clarity, vision, and prosperity. Some of you listening to this podcast are on a survival level, putting most of your time and energy into paying your bills and meeting your basic needs. It is important to have enough money so that your energy can be put into your life's work, so that you can follow your spiritual path and you're not in turmoil over the lack of money. You may want to consider taking a temporary job as a stopgap measure that will help you pay your bills while you focus on finding your ideal job or career. At this stage, it is good to look around and find the easiest way possible within the bounds of your integrity to meet your basic needs. Even though a job doesn't use all your skills or isn't your idea of a perfect job, as long as the environment and activities of the business are satisfactory, it can help you build the foundation while you do other things. Constant worry about money blocks your creative thinking. Getting yourself to a level where your bills are manageable and your basic needs are met will help you find and create your life's work more rapidly. Your soul does not care what job title you have. As long as you bring love and consciousness to your work, you will grow spiritually. If you decide to take a temporary job, do not think that you sacrificed your ideals in some way. You may find that you're more effective in helping others if you're not struggling to survive yourself. A temporary job may even have hidden surprises for you, a new friend or a skill that will help you later. Or, in some as yet unknown way, it may be a step toward your life's work. A temporary job will give you money, new skills, and possibly the opportunities you need to get a job that is more for your liking. Nothing is ever a wasted experience. Even a job that is routine will teach you lessons you need to learn. Make sure this job doesn't take your energy and your time. You want to have enough left to activate your greatest purpose. Some of you may decide to stay at a survival level longer because you feel that taking a temporary job is compromise. You may feel that doing anything other than your life's work is unacceptable and that you are willing to live with less until your career is launched. Acknowledge that you're willingly deciding on this path. Do not let other people make you feel wrong about it. Just make sure that your basic needs are being met well enough so that you can spend the time necessary to launch your true career. Life is like a spiral. You'll pass through every stage again and again, experiencing each stage from a higher and higher perspective. When you have very little money, you're learning many lessons that will make it easier to handle money when it comes. To break through this level, you need to keep your life simple and uncomplicated in terms of money, expenses, demands, and needs. Think of yourself as the rose bush that is cut back in the winter so that it may grow strong in the spring. Use this time to get in touch with basic needs and eliminate those things that do not serve you. When you don't know where the money will come from to pay your bills, or you're afraid to take the steps you are being shown from within that will help you change your current situation, you may be dealing with fear. Fear can be an easier feeling to change than you think. All it takes to release is your willingness and intent to do so. One way to release your fears is by identifying specifically what you're afraid of. If you feel fear about your finances, use your imagination and ask, what is the worst that can happen if I don't pay my bills this month? Take each answer and again ask, what is the worst that can happen? Now, I'm not saying to be creative with this, but when you do this, eventually you'll come to your deepest fear. As you recognize it, you can release it. If the worst that can happen is that you might lose your job, have no money, and starve to death, deal with that fear first. When you identify your fears, you can change them. Once you've dealt with fear, you will see what actions are appropriate to take and be able to carry them out. As you face your fears, do not make them larger than they are. Once you see the worst that can happen, you will probably realize that you can handle it. Also, that it is very unlikely that it will happen anyway. For instance, one woman wanted to launch her own business, but kept holding back. She knew she was afraid. She asked herself, what is the worst that can happen if I start this business? Her answer was, nobody will pay me, I'll have no business, then I won't be able to pay my bills. She kept asking, what is the worst that could happen? She replied, if I can't pay my bills, I'll lose my home, my children won't eat, we'll starve. She again asked herself, if that happens, what is the worst that could happen? She thought, I'll end up wishing I were dead. Once she saw her fears, she realized that there was very little chance that the very worst would happen, for she knew her brothers and sisters and parents would at least bring her food. Bringing to the surface her worst fears also seemed to awaken her strength. For every part of you that is afraid, there's also a part that knows you can succeed. I'm not saying to focus on these fears, but bring them up instead of keeping them down, because the fears are still there. We've learned from our past episodes that in order to deal with fears that are creative, you can't ignore them because they are still there. So our goal is to bring up these fears, acknowledge them, send them love, then they can be released properly. So say it with me. I send love to my fears. My fears are the places within me that await my love. I send love to my fears. My fears are the places within me that await my love. Take the same situation, imagine the very best that could happen. Every fear in you represents an area that you are developing in this lifetime, a place within you that you are bringing to the light, changing negative energy into positive energy. Fears lose their power when you hold them up to the light of your consciousness. Fears are dwelling in the darkness. It is only when they lurk beneath the surface of your mind they can cause you to avoid doing things that contribute to your highest path. As you recognize each fear, you will be guided to ways of releasing it. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is to examine any recurring situation in your life that is causing you pain or struggle, and to bring to light the fear that is behind it. Unlocking fear brings you tremendous gifts and opens up your greatest potential, for each fear has buried within it many new pictures, insights, and revelations about who you are and who you can be. And I say this from experience in my own life and to others that I've helped in similar situations. I'm not just saying that, I mean that with all my heart. If you fear having enough money to do what you want, thoughts about world travel, a nice home, or financial independence will probably not come to your awareness. One of my fears that I had to release was that if I made too much money that I would destroy myself. I used to drink too much and I would live in excess. And so some part of me was always fearful of making too much money because I thought, hey, I'm just going to kill myself if I have too much money. And I had to really address this fear, and I didn't understand where it came from. And there was some part of me that was afraid of success. And when I released it, I opened up whole areas of growth and potential, as you will too. Another way to release a fear once you recognize it is to hold it up to the light of your soul. Imagine you're approaching a cool blue flame that represents your soul, and ask your soul to release, clear, and heal your fears. Release anything that is not for your higher good and ask it to release itself from you. All you need to do is ask. And your soul will immediately begin to lead you to things that will help you release the fear. If you feel you are ready to let go of your fears, ask now for that release. Be open to creative new ways to get what you want. You are not your fears, but the self that experiences them. Instead of saying, I'm afraid, say, the feeling of fear is passing through me and I now easily let it go. Remind yourself that the part of you that feels the fearful feelings is only a very tiny, small part of who you are. You can learn to identify and connect with your strong self by sending love to your fearful thoughts and reassure them as you would a small, frightened child Ask the fear if it has a message for you, or if there's something it wants you to pay attention to. Once you love and release your fears, you will be able to move forward and claim the abundance that is your right much more rapidly. So say this with me. I speak of success and prosperity. My words uplift and inspire myself and others. I speak of success and prosperity. My words uplift and inspire myself and others. To increase your prosperity, talk about your abundance. Words are important. Decree your abundance. Everything you say has the potential to create the reality you experience. The word is the power. You are the word. The universe responds to your positive talk. Even if you do not have something you want in your life right now, if you begin to talk and act as if you are certain you will have it, you will draw to you the circumstances to have it. Words affect your subconscious, which hears what you say and goes to work directly to make your words come true. The words, I do not have enough money, go directly to your unconscious, which begins creating lack. Rather than saying, I can't afford to buy this, say, I choose not to buy this at this time. You'll find yourself saying these statements all the time. Oh, we can never afford that. Oh, it's just too expensive. It is better not to speak of failure or financial disasters to others. If you do not have money right now, do not complain of your lack with anyone. Talk about your visions and your dreams. Speak of what is good in your life right now and how positive you feel about the future. Speak to others of your confidence and trust in yourself without emphasizing your lack. Your friends carry an image of you, and when you think of yourself, you pick up their pictures. If you speak to others of your prosperity, they will think of you as prosperous. They will carry positive mental pictures of you that you can tap into whenever you want. Remember, we talk about thought streams, and one thought attracts another thought. And if you project positive confidence to others about your financial situation, they're going to think thoughts about you that reflect that, and you're going to attract those thoughts to yourself. They will carry positive mental pictures that you can tap into. If you do not have money right now, speak as if you do. Say, I live in an abundant world. All is perfect in my universe. Now, analyze what comes to your mind when you say that. And if you think about your lack, then you need to say it again until you lose that sting of the lack. Say, I live in an abundant universe. All is perfect in my universe. It's not just the words, it's the thought and feelings that accompany it. If you feel right now that you do not have enough money, pretend that you have all the money you need and let the emotion of plenty come into your body. Your subconscious does not know the difference between what is really happening and what you imagine to be happening, so it goes out and happily creates your fantasy for you. Create a vision of abundance, and soon the world will reflect back to you. Use the magnetism exercises in my episode on magnetizing what you want. You may want to sit quietly and ask your wiser self to give you a message if there is anything you can do to increase your prosperity. If there's no message, assume what you have asked for is on its way to you, and thank the universe and your higher self in advance for sending it. Continue your normal activities as if what you asked for were indeed coming. It will come whether you worry about it or not. Occupy yourself with other things to think about and do. You might want to check your mind or messages that you might need to pay attention to. Handle them, and then get back to whatever it is that appears to be the next thing to do in your life. All you need to do is take one day at a time. Look at what actions you can take today to create money. Many people I talk to get lost in the largeness of their visions and feel constant pressure from them. You may even feel like a failure because you have not accomplished your dreams. You do not need to feel that way. Simply concentrate on what you can do today. There's always something you can do right now to demonstrate your trust in your future. A feeling of powerlessness often comes from living the future, worrying about not having enough at some future time. You cannot change the future except by actions you take today, so focus on what you can do today to create prosperity. Even the biggest plans are realized by living them one day at a time. In fact, the largest plans are often best created by looking at them day by day and month by month, constantly focusing on the next step. Creating your dreams takes patience, persistence, and commitment. Trust that whatever you are experiencing right now is perfect for your growth. Even if you have asked for abundance and you are experiencing what seems like the opposite, realize that experiencing its opposite can generate the energy you need to take a quantum jump forward into prosperity. And you need to be okay in accepting to spend time on this and work. I find it hilarious. One of the most popular writers on my channel that I cover is Dr. Joseph Murphy. Many of the episodes on Dr. Joseph Murphy have tons of views, but I had an episode called "There Is No Free Lunch." And I was shocked at the comments I got on Facebook and on YouTube, people constantly saying it's just not true. They were turned off by it. This episode had the lowest views because a lot of people out there have this concept when we talk about the law of attraction and reality creation that they can get all the prosperity and abundance they want for free without doing anything. If you actually listen to that episode, it is all about easy ways for you to achieve abundance. But the point is, you have to direct your attention towards it. You can't simply expect it to happen. You have to spend time imagining it. And as I have found in my own case, you got to take actions towards the abundance that you want and be willing to put the time in. Sometimes you have to work a little bit late. Sometimes you have to get up earlier in the morning. Why are you afraid of that? I had an affirmation on an earlier financial abundance meditation that said, I worked hard for my money. Brian, you need to remove that because that's just wrong thinking. You don't have to work hard for my money, but I have worked hard for my money, and I'm reminding myself of the hard work that I've done because I deserve it, that I've worked for it. It's a reminder of the energy and action I've already put towards it. You can make money easily, but that is advanced manifesting that occurs down the road. You are used to a universe of cause and effect, and if you have a desire for money to come to you, you need to do something to make that money. In many cases, that means that you need to have some service that is equitable to the amount of money that you make. So assume that you're going to have to put your attention and time into it. And if you do it properly, it's not hard work. It doesn't mean that it's hard work, but if you're enjoying it, you're going to spend time doing what you enjoy because you already like to do the things you enjoy. You spend time doing it by choice. Check out my episode, You Can Do What You Love. You can find things that you can do that you love, I promise you. But you must be willing to put in the time, effort, and focus on achieving your goals. Do not expect things to be given to you freely. And eventually, these things will be given to you freely, but don't expect it. You don't want to just look at receiving just money because you'll receive 10 cents, but you should be excited about anything that you receive. The universe doesn't know the difference oftentimes between $1 million and 10 cents. It's just money. What's the difference in water? If it's a lake or a cup, it's still water, right? So you need to make sure that you're acknowledging that you want large sums of money and you want to imagine money that comes to you easily and quickly so that it doesn't take a long time and that it's not difficult for you to get. And then you want to imagine the money that's coming to you coming in increasing quantities, that the money is not stagnant, that it doesn't stay the same. We have inflation in the world, and you want to imagine the money that you receive increases. And I have personally found one of the keys to this is to imagine receiving money from multiple sources. Many people, they get focused on one way of receiving money, and that's the only way they think about. And then something happens, and then suddenly they don't have that source of income. You are the source of your income. Check out my episode on You Are the Source. It is not that business. It is not your parents. It is not that investment fund. It is not the Bitcoin. It is none of those things. You are the source of all your income. God is the source. You are the source. And the source is always available to you. So you want to accept multiple streams of income coming to you and continue to try to think of new ways to receive income. Don't rest on your laurels. A lot of times people get comfortable with what they're receiving and then they start to rest on the laurels. The world is adapting and it's chaotic and it's changing all the time. So when you have in play multiple sources of income, it's only going to help you and make things better, focusing on more than one thing to make income. And you want to imagine that the money is coming to you continuously. It's not just a one-shot deal. I am personally against using or wasting my time imagining winning lotteries, because oftentimes you're seeking out large sums of money, and in many cases, not always, but in the majority of cases that people are just imagining receiving money from a lottery, they're thinking that's the only way they'll be able to make that big amount of money. And it becomes a limiting factor. Like, the only way I could ever make that $10 million is if I won the lottery, because obviously I can't get it anywhere else. The $10 million can be made in a variety of ways. Unlimited possibilities are available to you. So if you are playing the lottery, well, first of all, you got to buy a lottery ticket, but imagine it's just one of the sources and have fun with it and play with it. Don't look at it as your exclusive source. And if you're lucky and you're following your soul's path, it will come to you. I personally believe that I have, as a soul, gone out of the way to not win the lottery, because I've done a dang good job of imagining having won the lottery, because it's fun to do. Because if I had won the lottery in the past, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I wouldn't be doing this episode, and I would have lost the opportunity to be of service. And I have found the greatest wealth is to be of service. When I'm being of service and I feel like I'm helping other people, I feel more rich than I've ever felt before. And I would not have that feeling of wealth. I would not even be close if I had won the lottery, because I'd just be sitting on vacation somewhere doing nothing. And so for some people, deep down, their soul knows you can't make a whole bunch of money. It's stopping you. So you need to change your thinking and allow yourself and give yourself permission to make this money, but don't let it distract you from your soul's true purpose. Because sometimes your soul will restrict you from making money because it wants you to achieve your purposes, and be openly allowing yourself to achieve your purposes. I will achieve my purpose no matter how much money I make. But going back to that, so we want to say large sums of money come to me easily and quickly in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis, in the best interest of all, that I get to keep, invest, spend, and cultivate and keep joyfully. A lot of times people are able to manifest money, and I've had so many different people I've helped that this is such a common thing that it's something to include in your affirmations. People get money and they get the money. They might get the $1 million that they were trying to manifest, but somehow they lose it right away because they had some debt that came up, some collection account came up, something happened to their home. And so even though they got the money, they had to spend it. So you want to imagine keeping this, right? You want to imagine achieving your soul's purpose, no matter how much money that you make. And when you have these thoughts and you really understand the delicacies and interplay, then you can allow yourself to receive this money. You're learning some lessons if you're in that survival mode right now. Relax. You're going to make it. You're going to make it through. You're still protected. The worst case scenario never really happens. You don't have to worry so much. Let go of your fears. Imagine properly, and you will get everything that you ever imagined and so much more. You are the source. You are the cause. You are your supply. All is available to you. And if you're in that place right now where you're trying to survive, be grateful. Because these lessons now are going to make you so filthy rich in the future that you are going through this right now. It is a bridge to what you want. Accept it. It is to your advantage. Openly accept it and continue imagining the wealth and abundance and prosperity that you truly want, which goes beyond just material things. It's the love that you'll be able to give, the opportunities for service that you have in the future. So I just want to thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I hope that helps some of you that are in that survival mode. And in many ways, I am doing this episode to myself, to my past self, and maybe to my future self, as a reminder that whatever you're going through right now, it's just a stepping stone to something greater. Relax, take a deep breath. Everything's going to be okay. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com, and welcome to The Reality Revolution.